Okay everyone, welcome back to the channel again. Today we're on Gran Turismo Sport and we're going to be watching the FIA Nations race at Fuji in Group 2. So if you do enjoy this video, please take a few seconds to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Anyway, getting on with this race, you can see we actually finally qualified P1. So if you watch the stream, you'll know how happy I was with this. We actually did a very solid lap of 1:30.7. Still had improvements available in that lap, so it makes me wonder, how much improvement are we going to be able to get out of this Fanatec wheel, because we are really starting to get to grips with it. But yeah, this was slot number 5 or 4, I think it was slot number 5 in the day. First two races went really well. We qualified pretty poorly down in P15 and P13, but got ourselves up to P7. Third race of the day, got ourselves onto P3 on the grid, and we had an issue. I think I must have hit the tuning button and the wheel went all funny. But this race, we managed to put it on pole, starting from pole straight away. Going to try and get into turn 1 in the lead. You can see I actually got a very nice start. Now the worry I had here was that we were going to get dive bombed, so I braked very late, and I actually braked too late. We're going to run while we just about keep it on the track, but unfortunately we've lost the lead to this race. This was really frustrating because I did want to go with a slightly different strategy of pushing 100%, because I felt like it was a quicker way to do it. But unfortunately we've had to be forced into maybe a different strategy. We'll see how it plays. On the open lap, I'm going to try and push a bit and try and get back past Antomix in front of us there. We call him Antomix because that used to be his name. But yeah, unfortunately, I just got a little bit worried about the possible chaos at turn 1, because we had seen it in previous races in the day. It was absolute chaos. However, this race, no issue at all. Everyone got through there nice and cleanly. And yeah, I paid the price of being a little bit worried about cars coming through. I should have just stuck to my normal braking point, got in there and pushed. But so now we've got a bit of a challenge on our hands. We're down in P2, not the worst position we can be in. There was 349 points available, I think it was, for this race. So we're still in a solid position. We just need to try and push on and put Antomix under a bit of pressure. We've got Jomas behind us, a very fast driver. So we've got to be cautious of the car behind us while trying to push on and make a move on P1. So you can see at the first lap I'm trying to push quite aggressively, not really worrying about fuel saving. Now this race was either a no stopper or you have to push 100%. So I was trying to see if I could get past him here, but it looks like he's revving out quite aggressively on this straight. He doesn't want to obviously give up that position because he might be aware of the different strategies. So yeah, he's gone defensive, and this doesn't look like I'm going to be able to hang it around the outside. We try and brake very late into turn 1 and try and get on the power nice and early, but yeah, we're not going to make that move. So at this point now, I think we had to decide, do we carry on pushing and waste our fuel and possibly struggling at the end, or do I go into a fuel saving mode? And I decided, I think we're going to have to go to the fuel saving. So you're going to start seeing a lot of lift and coasting into the corners to save fuel. You'll notice with the sound of the engine that I'm using a higher mixture of fuel. Now unfortunately, during the live stream I couldn't record this race again because I had upped the bitrate from recording the Gran Turismo trailer. I'd actually upped the bitrate quite a bit, and if I would have clicked the record button while I was streaming, my PC probably would have blown up. So yeah, I couldn't do that, unfortunately. Fortunately I'll make sure that isn't the case. I'm going to alter that bitrate back down to 10,000, which it normally is for when I'm recording these races while I'm streaming. Obviously when I'm not streaming I can run it much higher bitrate, but when you're streaming at the same time, you have to bear in mind that your PC is going to be overloaded a bit. So yeah, unfortunately couldn't do it from the live feed. However, we have got the replay to watch. You don't see the deltas, which is a shame and all that, but the racing is still very enjoyable. As you see, starting lap 2, you can see already with the fuel saving, it's like pros and cons of being in the slipstream. Obviously you can save slipstream, you can save fuel on the straight. However, during the corners you get that dirty air, which means you have to push a bit more, maybe be a bit more aggressive and try and get it back a bit on the straight. So I would rather be in P1 personally, because I think it's a hard one to say. The pace was reasonable. I think it could have been a little bit stronger, but it's very hard to judge how hard you push in these races when you're leading the race, because you don't know what fuel people are saving behind you. It's basically a very tactical race from this point onwards. Now we've got to play it safe. As we watch that replay camera, you can see a bit of a gap to Antomix in front of us. I was trying to leave the gap. You'll see if you watch the live stream, which we will put live in a few days once I can find a slot to put my video live on, because I have to be very careful with doing videos again on the channel. We have to be very careful of timing these videos, because YouTube will try and kill your video literally. So yeah, you can see I'm trying to leave that gap around 1 second, and what that does is I find that if your gap's around 1 second, the loss of aero isn't quite as high in the corners. as if you're right up behind someone, and you still get a bit of a benefit from the slipstream, because then on the straights you power through, get back in the slipstream behind, then through the corners you drop back a bit. So that's what I was trying to do. You can really see the effect of it, because Jonas is much closer to me, and you can see on the power his car looks a little bit more edgy when he's getting on the power, coming out of some of these slow corners. So you see how close he is there to the rear. I'm able to really get on the throttle a little bit better and actually utilize the traction of the car a little bit more. So yeah, that was the aim, stay about 1 second back for the opening 6 or 7 laps, and then towards the end of the race hopefully try and get a little bit closer to P1 and go for the move. So yeah, we're locked into the no stopper at this point. It is physically impossible. Once you're at this stage now, it's a waste of time trying to do a no stopper, which I still believe was the fastest way if I would have got through that turn 1 without being a bit of a scaredy cat and worrying about other cars destroying our race. But it's, you know, it was actually understandable that if you'd seen the first few races, you'd understand why we did that. So we fast forward the action here. We're going to skip through a bit of a game of cat and mouse, you'd say, at this stage, where we're just eyeing each other up and just trying to work out, really just trying to save fuel while keeping reasonable pace. You'll see what we're doing is I'm just bringing it back a bit on the straight, but what I was doing actually a lot of lift and coast into the turn 1 and using mixture 6 and up to 3, 4, 5, 6 at the end of the straight, because you're not going to gain a massive amount. It's a very good tip that I would say is when you're in the slipstream gaining time and you want to save fuel, halfway down the straight, maybe mix it, put it into mixture 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, and then 6, because you're only going to lose like 3-4 miles per hour, and then you can lift and coast into the corner, brake a little bit later when you actually get to the point where you need to brake. You're going to save the tyres, you're going to also save a lot of fuel. So it's a little tip that I would recommend definitely for races like this where it was all about saving fuel. And you can see we don't actually lose too much time to the car in front, so you're going to see a perfect example again probably as we go on this straight. You can see that the gap to Jonas now has increased to a pretty similar gap to what I am from P1. So it looks like possibly hanging back Jonas there to a similar type of gap, keeping it within 1 second so we can save that fuel. And then yeah, you don't get as much of a loss of aero through the corners. So what you're going to see here is you're going to hear more so the engine not being so, it's not going to rev so much because we're using that high mixture, and then we're lifting into the corner, letting the car coast into the braking zone, braking a little bit later than because we've already dropped a bit of speed, down through the gears, in mixture 2 on the acceleration zone, and then back to 1 while we short shift up to the next corner. And then I was going into mixture 4 for 3 or 4 for this section normally, and I could have probably gone to 5, but the thing is I've got to try and keep within that slipstream. Now that's the advantage. I think if you were in the lead at this stage, you could probably use mixture 5 or 6 and still keep the gap at the same distance to the car behind because of that loss of aero. So it was a little bit of a tactical race, but yeah, we're driving quite nice at this stage, keeping it nice and smooth. Pretty happy with how the race has gone considering that turn 1 disaster. And yeah, very, very impressed with the Fanatec again. I keep saying it, but I am very, very impressed with my Fanatec wheel. It is really serving me well. It's suiting me much more. I'm enjoying the game a lot more. And this, you've obviously you can tell from the fact that I'm back doing these videos a bit more because my motivation level has increased, because I can feel that there's a lot more feel for me with this wheel. I don't know if there was something wrong with my TGT, who knows, but yeah, this game feels much more alive to me now. I can get into the apex, I can get on the throttle a lot earlier, and I feel more competitive, so I'm enjoying the game much more with this Fanatec wheel as we work our way down the straight. And again, just using that slipstream, we drop into about 1.1 seconds back there, and then using that slipstream, still short shifting, gain a bit of time on the straights, and then we'll do the lift and coast back into turn 1. So this is basically the procedure for much of the race, because this was a fairly static race. It was a no stopper. Now they could have made this a little bit more enjoyable by maybe adding maybe 2 or 3 more laps to it, maybe 2 laps to it or something like that, and making sure that you had to use a medium tyre. Could have made it a bit more interesting, but then I think most people would have just run the mediums and then pitted for the hards towards the end. Yeah, it would have been interesting though to have options where you qualified what tyre you start on, maybe to have to run both tyres or something. But like I said before in the last video, it seems to be a strategy they're going with is going for a mixture of races. So some races are no stoppers, some have the opportunity to pit and put fuel in whilst not changing tyres. Other races have their multiple compounds of tyres that you have to use. So they are trying to mix it up, which is fair enough. But yeah, I wish that some of these races would have just a little bit more strategy in this. You can see starting to get a little bit closer to Atomics through this stage of the race. You can see we're starting to pull a little bit away from Jonas behind us as well, which is good, because if we can break that slipstream and then give ourselves a bit of a comfortable gap, because what we have to be quite careful of in this race is on the last few laps when we're going to have to go for the move, this is what I was trying to time it for, was last 2 laps was when we were going to go aggressive. The fuel was looking quite good. I'd actually done quite good fuel saving during this race. And yeah, if we can get a gap to Jomas so that when we start battling at the front, he's not going to be right behind us, that is what you want. Because if you've got a situation where you're battling with the leader and you've got another car directly behind you, there's a high chance that you're going to get overtaken by the car behind you instead of actually gaining the position. So yeah, doing quite a good job at the moment as we go over the line there. Fairly solid and consistent lap times. You can see doing fairly mid to low 32s. Nothing massively great at the moment. I think I would have liked to have been in the lead. I think we could have run a little bit faster, but yeah, it's very hard to judge because when you're in that lead, you don't really want to use too much fuel. You want to save yourself some fuel for the end. As we fast forward the action for a few laps now, just as it's a little bit static at this phase of the race, you can see following behind Atomics there as we go over the line and start lap 9 now. So yeah, getting towards the end of the race, you can still see in the mirror behind us, you can just about make Jomas out there following behind us around 1.3 to 1.4 seconds behind, but I think we're about to lose him from the slipstream, which is going to be perfect for myself for the last 4 laps as we now come to cross the line at the end of lap 9. Go over there, you can see there on a 1 minute 32.2, I think that is, or 3 or something like that. But you can see this lap we were actually purple on, so we're starting to put some purple sectors in. Just fast forwarding at this stage because we didn't want to just drag this video out watching fairly static driving, but you can see this lap is looking purple all the way through. It was actually a solid lap. It wasn't particularly amazing, but what I'm trying to do now is put Atomics under a little bit of pressure, try and force him to use a bit more fuel as we go over the line with the purple lap. That was the fastest lap of the race as we go down the main straight into the braking zone, and you can see we're much closer now. But this is the position we needed to get ourselves in because we broke the slipstream from P3, and Atomics makes a little bit of a mistake there into turn 1, which is going to give myself more of an opportunity to go for a move on these last few laps. We've got 3 more laps to do it on, actually 4 more laps to do it on, sorry, including this lap. So yeah, we've got a little bit of time to actually go for a move, but we're just trying to get ourselves in position. You can see what I'm trying to do now is make sure I don't get back to that range of 1.1 seconds. We're trying to get as close as possible. Now this isn't as easy as it looks on Gran Turismo when you're in Group 2, for example, Fuji in the middle sector. You do gain time on the straights, obviously, but during the fast corners, like Fuji has a lot of fast corners and technical sections where you're going, like the corner up ahead now, we're going to very low speeds and you really need the traction. So what you're going to see is it's quite difficult to get the power down. So as we go through the corner, you can see the rear is very tentative. I'm being a little bit gentle on the throttle because I'm worried about that loss of rear grip. You can see there 50% throttle, 60% throttle, and this again is something I have to say about the Fanatec gear that I've got. Obviously I've got the inverted V3i pedals now, and I'm really finding that you can really control the amount of acceleration you're putting in better than the Thrustmaster pedals, which is obvious because of the price difference. But yeah, I think it's something that I've learned with sim racing equipment from now on is you pay for what you get, and with this Fanatec equipment you really do get a high quality product. Now the normal V3s are quite a bit cheaper as well, and they're going to offer you the same amount of performance gain, so I do 100% recommend them. If you have got a Fanatec wheel, you will see that you can really keep that accelerator at that 50, 60, 70% throttle input. It's really nice to experience. So yeah, again, coming out the final corner, trying to get on that throttle nice and aggressive. You can see how we're starting to try and work on Atomics now. We're trying to give him problems to think about. We're looking up the inside, we're trying to push him into tighter angles into the corner, and we're starting to look very aggressive. You can see from the replay camera how close we are now towards the end of this race. It's really building up for an absolutely brilliant end. You can see going into these really fast corners again. You can see the gap to Jomas is strong. I think it's enough now that we've got a bit of a cushion that we can actually attack Atomics, and this is what we were trying to do. I was trying to build up that 2-second gap, or 1.82 second gap, just so that we've got some leeway. You know, if we go for a move, it fails, we lose half a second, we're not going to lose that P2, and that is something that I was trying to bear in mind throughout the races. You can see Atomics there starting to get a little bit slippery on the accelerator there. Myself pushing through that corner, you can see the car losing grip with that loss of aero in that slipstream into this final corner. Car sliding into there, just about making it into the apex on the throttle, drifting almost through that corner as we're trying to get as close as we can to Atomics for this final corner. You can see we go back on live with the live onboard camera as we go down the main straight, trying to get to the slipstream. You can see again, this is a sign that he's obviously feeling a little bit more on the threat now. He's having to go defensive and try and break that slipstream as we build that slipstream up. We've got the fuel to push down the straights now. I knew this, we'd saved enough. I kind of learnt what fuel I'd needed through the previous races, And yeah, you can see he's gone defensive. We're going to go to the left-hand side of the track again. Try and give him a tighter angle into this corner and try and work it through the corner like we did before. Can we make it happen this time? And again, no. He's managed to defend that well, but that looks like that is going to be the opportunity. You can see that every lap, the last 2 laps, I've tried to do that move. I'm trying to see if we can get that move to work. I think if we get close enough, we can make it work, as Atomics has a little bit of an issue there. Definitely starting to look a little bit on edge as we try our hardest to get the car into a position to go for a move. So again, we're going to look down the inside there, make him go defensive, giving us a wider line into the corner. This is going to give myself better exit off this corner, really getting the throttle down there. You can see that we've got a run on Atomics in P1. Will we go for a move? We're going to try and hang it round the outside now, side by side with the GTR, 2 GTRs into the tight hairpin, tight chicane, braking as late as possible, trying to hold it around the outside. We're going side by side, again side by side through the chicane. This is absolutely brilliant driving. Much respect to Atomics for keeping it 100% clean. We both gave each other the space. Very nice driving, and great to see after the races that we had seen earlier on in the day. But what you can see from this is that, like I said, we're battling away, and Jonas there has got himself right behind us. So I've got to be very cautious going into the final corner, trying to work him on that inside line again, giving myself a stronger exit from the corner as he has to go defensive. And you can see that has really worked. We're into the slipstream, pulling back out of the slipstream, working our way down the straight, side by side again, down the main straight. This is going to be very intense into turn 1. Can we make the move work this time? It's obviously going to be very hard. We saw on the previous laps that it didn't quite work, but this time we're much further alongside Atomics as we go into the braking zone. Brake as late as we can, but trying to give ourselves a tight line in, braking down into first gear, onto the apex, on the throttle nice and early, a little bit of contact but nothing too much, and we managed to make that move, an absolutely brilliant move, overtaking on the final lap to put ourselves in P1, and this is perfect. Now we just got to try and push through here, use a bit of fuel up to build a little bit of a gap to the P2. However, we are running very low on fuel at this stage. When you see the live stream, you will see that we was extremely low on fuel, so I had to go down to mixture 3 and 4 through some of the corners. But when you've got that ability to not lose aero, you can actually afford to do it. So you see now into the braking zone, we've got ourselves in the lead. We've got a few more corners left to do. We've just got to go into this heavy braking zone now. We're going to go into, I think it was mixture 3 or 4 we had to go into. I had to go into during this race because the fuel had become very, very low. I had to say I was getting a little bit nervous with the fuel on this lap because I had pushed for 2 or 3 laps to try and get that move done. But the important thing was that we got the move done, and we're in the lead of this race. Going into the final few corners, you see slightly missing the apex there, but just about getting on the throttle early enough to keep our defence. I think for this final corner, you can see, yep, the 2 cars behind us, Jonas and Atomics, they're battling a little bit as also, so that's going to help me out as we work our way down the main straight. This looks like we're going to take the win, using mixture 2 and 3 actually at this stage, just to make sure I don't run out of fuel. You can see the car behind me in the mirror is gaining, but the finishing line is there, and we've took the win with an absolutely brilliant end to the race. 100% enjoyed that race, and again, really enjoying using the Fanatec. I think without that Fanatec, I don't think we would have had as much ability with the TGT, because I really wasn't enjoying the TGTs. But yeah, with the Fanatec, 100% enjoying the game like I used to. And yeah, I'm glad that we've made that move. With our first Nations race with the wheel, we pick up a win and quite a solid amount of points. You can see there, 349 points. We take the win, the fastest lap in the race, and also a clean race. So yeah, couldn't have gone better. Hope you enjoyed that one. Apart from that mistake at turn 1, hope you enjoyed it. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification button, and you'll see me more for more live content and more videos. Thanks again for watching, everyone.